So, the police officer is standing there in the living room, the one I grew up in, and he's got this look on his face. It's not pity, it's not anger, it's just exhaustion. The kind of look a cop gets when he realizes his Saturday night is about to be derailed by the weirdest domestic dispute of his career. He looks from my father's trembling, pointing finger to my mother's tear-streaked, furious face, and then to me, just standing by the fireplace. Then he looks down at the thick vellum document in my hand. The official deed. All right, let me get this straight. The officer says, pinching the bridge of his nose. You, he points at my dad, called 911 to have this person, he gestures to me, removed from your property for trespassing. That's right, officer. My father sputters, his face turning a blotchy red. He won't leave. This is our house. We've lived here for 30 years. The officer takes a deep breath. Okay. The problem with that, sir, he says, tapping the document I'm holding, is that according to this legally filed, notarized, and completely ironclad deed of ownership for this property, this person is the owner. He looks at me. Are you the sole proprietor of the Northwood Holdings LLC? I nod. I am. He turns back to my parents. Then I'm afraid he's not the one trespassing. The silence in the room was so complete, you could hear the cheap quartz clock on the mantelpiece ticking. My mother's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish. My father's face went through 5 different emotions in 3 seconds, finally landing on a shade of purple I had only ever seen in cartoons. The look of pure, unadulterated narcissistic injury. Oh man, it was a sight to behold. And the best part? They had absolutely no idea how we got here. To understand the beauty of that moment, you have to know that for the first 25 years of my life, I was, in the official and frequently stated opinion of my parents, a complete and utter failure. Let's rewind. I grew up as the quintessential disappointment child. I had an older brother, David, the golden child. David was pre-med. David was captain of the debate team. David's GPA was so high it was probably illegal in some states. My parents talked about David's future like it was a stock they had invested heavily in, which, I guess, they had. They saw him as their ticket to a retirement filled with bragging rights at the country club they couldn't actually afford. And then there was me. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do drugs. I didn't crash cars. I was just different. I liked to draw. I liked to build things on the computer. While David was memorizing organic chemistry formulas, I was teaching myself how to code and use Photoshop. To my parents, this was like learning how to speak Klingon. Useless and deeply weird. Dinner conversations were a masterclass in psychological torture. David just aced his MCAT practice test. My dad would boom, beaming. Then he'd turn to me. And what did you do today, Mark? Click away on that little noise machine of yours. My noise machine was a top-of-the-line PC I had built myself by saving up for a year. My mother was the queen of the backhanded compliment. Oh, that's a colorful picture you drew, honey, she'd say, holding up one of my digital art prints like it was a dirty diaper. It's nice you have a little hobby. You know, David's volunteer work at the hospital is really teaching him about responsibility. For years, I tried to win their approval. I really did. I'd show them a website I designed for a local business, and my dad would ask how much I got paid, then scoff at the number. Your brother will make that in an hour as a surgeon, he'd say. It was a constant, grinding erosion of my self-worth. I was the quirky art project, and David was the blue-chip stock. The final straw, the thing that finally severed the last thread of hope I had, was my college graduation. I got a degree in digital media and marketing. A practical degree, a field with actual jobs. I was proud of it. I'd worked my ass off. At my graduation dinner, my dad stood up to make a toast. My friends were there. My girlfriend at the time was there. He raised his glass. To our sons, he began, and I felt a flicker of hope. To David, who is about to start medical school and continue our family's legacy of success. We are so proud of you. He beamed at my brother. Then he turned his eyes to me, and the temperature in the room dropped. And to Mark, he said, with a little chuckle, who has completed his studies. We hope one day you'll find a way to use that computer thing to get a real job. But we love you anyway. The table was silent. My friends stared at their plates. My girlfriend squeezed my hand under the table. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the public performance of it all. The casual, smiling way he announced to everyone I mattered to that I was, and always would be, a joke to him. Later that night, I confronted them. What was that? I asked, my voice shaking. My mother jumped in. Oh, honey, Don't be so sensitive. Your father was just teasing. It didn't feel like teasing, I said. It felt like you were humiliating me. My dad slammed his hand on the kitchen counter. Humiliating you? Don't be so dramatic. Maybe if you gave us something to be proud of, I wouldn't have to tease you. Your brother is going to save lives. What are you going to do? Make a cartoon. And that was it. Something inside me just snapped. It wasn't loud. It was a quiet, cold, clean break. I looked at these two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and I realized they didn't even know me. And they didn't want to. They wanted a reflection of their own ambitions. I went to my room, packed a suitcase, and walked out. I sent them one final text before I blocked their numbers, my brother's number, everyone. It just said, I'm done. The first couple of years were rough. I won't lie. I slept on a friend's couch. I worked as a barista by day and took on freelance web design gigs by night. There were times I lived on ramen and pure spite. I'm sure my parents heard about my struggles through the family grapevine and felt smugly justified. See? We told him so. He can't make it without us. But here's the thing they never understood. Their constant disapproval had forged a kind of independence in me they could never comprehend. I didn't need their validation to work hard. I just needed me. My little freelance business started to grow. One client recommended me to another. I built a reputation for being fast, creative, and reliable. Within 3 years, I had enough clients to quit the coffee shop. Within 5, I had hired my first employee. I called my company Northwood Holdings. It sounded solid, corporate, and anonymous. It was the opposite of the flighty, artsy kid they always saw me as. By the time I was 30, I was running a small but very successful digital marketing agency. I wasn't a surgeon, but I was doing more than okay. I lived simply, invested my money, and enjoyed the peace of not having to brace for impact every time I answered the phone. I kept in touch with one person from my family, my mom's younger sister, my Aunt Carol. She was the only one who had ever sent me a text after I left that said, I don't know what happened, but I hope you're okay. We'd talk once every few months. She'd give me the family news, and I'd give her the heavily edited version of my life. It was from Aunt Carol that I heard about my parents' financial decline. My dad, who always fancied himself a brilliant investor, had sunk most of their savings into a guaranteed real estate scheme that went belly up. Then he tried to day trade and lost even more. David, the golden child, was a surgical resident working 80-hour weeks and was drowning in over $300,000 of student loan debt. He couldn't bail them out even if he wanted to. My parents, who had built their entire world on the appearance of success, were quietly and rapidly running out of money. Then, one evening, Aunt Carol called me, crying. Mark, it's your parents' house, she whispered. The bank, it's in foreclosure. The auction is in a month. They're going to be homeless. They're too proud to tell anyone. I hung up the phone and just sat there in the dark in my nice, quiet apartment. And I felt nothing. No, that's a lie. I felt something, but it wasn't sadness. It was a weird, hollow ache. I hated them for what they did to me. I truly did. But the thought of them, in their 60s, being kicked out onto the street, it was a miserable end to a miserable story. And that house, despite everything, it was the house I grew up in. It was the backdrop to every bit of misery, sure, but it was also where I learned to ride a bike, where I taught myself to code in my bedroom at 2 a.m. I didn't want to save them, but maybe I wanted to save the house. The next day, I called my lawyer. The idea that formed in my head was both crazy and, I realized, perfect. It was a move they could never, in a million years, see coming. I want to set up a new LLC, completely firewalled from my main business, I told him. And I want to buy a specific property at a foreclosure auction. Anonymously. My lawyer raised an eyebrow, but he did what I paid him to do. 2 weeks later, Northwood Holdings LLC, a company with no public connection to me whatsoever, became the winning bidder for a certain 3-bedroom colonial in a quiet suburb. My childhood home, for a fraction of its market value. The next part was the masterstroke. I hired a third-party property management company. I gave them their instructions. They were to send a letter to the current occupants of the house. The letter they received a week before the eviction date must have felt like a miracle. It basically said that the property had been purchased by a private investment group. The new owner, who wished to remain anonymous, had reviewed their case and was prepared to offer them a unique arrangement. They could remain in the home indefinitely. They would not have to pay rent. Their only responsibility was to cover the utilities and maintain the property. Aunt Carol called me a few days later, ecstatic. Mark, you won't believe it. Some angel, some mysterious benefactor bought the house. Your parents are saved. They think it must have been one of your father's old business associates who felt sorry for him. Of course they did. Their egos would never let them imagine any other possibility. The failure they had kicked out of their lives? Impossible. It had to be someone who recognized my father's dormant genius. They accepted the offer without a single question. And for 5 years, that was that. I lived my life. They lived theirs, in the house that I owned. I paid the property taxes and the insurance through the LLC. It was a clean, simple, and secret act. It wasn't for them. It was for me. It was my way of proving to myself that I wasn't the bitter, resentful person they had tried to make me. I had the power to save them, and I did, on my own terms, without them ever knowing. It was the perfect, silent victory, and it would have stayed that way if it hadn't been for a goddamn magazine article. My agency won a major local business award, Entrepreneur of the Year. It came with a feature in a glossy local business magazine. There was a big picture of me, smiling, standing in front of my office with my team. The article detailed my company's meteoric rise. Apparently, one of my mother's friends saw it at a dentist's office. And she, of course, mailed it to my mom. My 5 years of blissful peace ended on a Tuesday morning. An email popped up. The sender's name made my stomach clench. My mother's name. The subject line was, "We need to talk." Now, I deleted it. Then came a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mark, this is your father. Your mother and I saw the article. It's time for you to stop this foolishness and come home. We are so proud." I blocked the number. But they were like cockroaches. They found my office number. They left messages with my receptionist. "Tell him his mother is calling." Then, they just showed up. One afternoon, I walked out of a meeting to find them sitting in my lobby, looking completely out of place. My mother stood up, her arms wide. "Mark, oh, look at you. A big shot. What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice flat. "We came to see you. To celebrate," my father said, puffing out his chest. "We knew you had it in you all along." The absolute audacity of it stole my breath. "No, you didn't," I said. "You told me I was a failure. For 20 years, you told me I would amount to nothing." "Water under the bridge," my dad said, waving his hand dismissively. "The point is, family should be together, especially when one of us is this successful." And then it came out. The real reason they were there. They needed money. Not just a little. A lot. They wanted me to invest in my dad's new foolproof business idea. They wanted me to help David pay off his student loans. They wanted me to buy them a new car. They had a list. It was a list of demands for repayment for the investment they had made in raising me. I looked at them, standing there in the lobby of the company I had built from nothing, and I felt that old, cold feeling again. "No," I said. "No? What do you mean, no?" my mother gasped. "I mean, no. I owe you nothing," I said. "You have a place to live, rent-free. That's more than enough. My only request is that you leave me alone. Stop calling, stop emailing, stop coming here. We are done." I turned and walked back to my office and had security see them out. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. How naive I was. I underestimated the sheer, cosmic power of their entitlement. A week later, I got a call from the property management company. "Mr. Northwood," the agent said, "we've had a strange request from the tenants at the Colonial property. They're asking for the owner's contact information. They said they're family and need to discuss an urgent financial matter." I told him under no circumstances was he to reveal my identity. But I knew what I had to do. I had to go there. I had to end this, face to face, once and for all, in the one place they felt they had power over me. I drove to my old house that Saturday. I walked up the driveway, and every step felt heavy. I knocked on the door. My mother opened it, and her face lit up. "He's here," she called over her shoulder. They sat me down in the living room. It was an ambush. They didn't yell. It was worse. They used that cloying, disappointed tone that had been the soundtrack to my childhood. "Mark, we are so disappointed in you," my mother began. "After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me?" I cut in. "Besides tell me I was worthless. We gave you a home. We fed you. We paid for your college," my dad yelled, his composure already cracking. "You paid for the college you wanted me to go to, for the degree you wanted me to have," I shot back. "And this home? Let's talk about this home." "This home is ours," he roared. "And in our home, you show us respect. You're a rich man now, because of us. It's our turn. You owe us." "I owe you nothing," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I came here to say this one last time. Leave me alone. If you contact me or my office again, I will get a restraining order. I stood up to leave. And that's when my father completely lost it. He blocked the door. You're not going anywhere, you ungrateful little brat. You will sit here and listen. You will give us what we are owed. Get out of my way, I said. Get out of my house, he screamed, his face inches from mine. You hear me? Get out of my house. And I just smiled. I couldn't help it. It was the moment. The perfect, beautiful, karmic moment I hadn't even known I was waiting for. No, I said simply. That's it. My mother shrieked. I'm calling the police. We'll have you arrested for trespassing. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, putting on a hysterical performance about a strange man who had forced his way into their house and was refusing to leave. Which brings us back to the beginning. So there we were, the cops, my hysterical parents, and me, holding the deed. After the officer dropped his little bombshell, my father just kept sputtering. That's not possible. It's a fake. He forged it. The officer sighed. Sir, I ran the LLC. It's legitimate. I ran the county property records. It's legitimate. The law is the law. Right now, you are the tenants, and he is the landlord. And it sounds like the landlord wants you to leave. I looked at my parents. Two small, pathetic, angry people whose entire world had just crumbled because it was built on a foundation of lies and ego. All the years of being called a failure, of being belittled and mocked, all of it just washed away. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt free. I took a step forward. I am serving you a verbal notice of eviction, I said, my voice clear and steady. You will receive the official papers on Monday. You have 30 days to vacate the property. I looked at my dad. My property. Then I turned, walked past the stunned police officers, got in my car, and drove away. I didn't look back. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. A storm of voicemails and texts from flying monkeys in the family. My brother, David, called me, screaming about how I was a monster for making our parents homeless. I let him yell, and when he was done, I calmly told him the entire story. About the years of abuse, about the graduation dinner, about how I had secretly been paying the taxes on their house for 5 years just so they'd have a roof over their heads. He was silent for a long, long time. He really said that at your graduation? He finally asked, his voice small. He'd been there. He knew it was true. Our relationship isn't fixed, but something broke in his perception of our perfect family that day. My parents? They had to move in with my brother into his tiny one-bedroom apartment. I imagine it's a very special kind of hell for all three of them. Aunt Carol told me they tell everyone a story about how their deadbeat son found a legal loophole to steal their house. Some people believe them. I don't care. The people who matter know the truth. I sold the house. I took the money from the sale and set up a scholarship at my old high school for kids who want to pursue careers in the arts or technology. The kids like me, the ones whose parents just don't get it. So yeah, that's how I became my parents' secret landlord and then, not so secretly, evicted them. It was messy, but my life has never been more quiet. And let me tell you, peace and quiet are worth more than any house. If you want to hear more stories about my wonderfully functional family, make sure you like and subscribe. Because what happened when my brother finally realized who was paying for his med school scholarship fund for all those years? Well, that's a whole other story.